Well, everyone, it's time for us to go and take a look at the iPhone XR and compare it against the iPhone 14 and see how both these phones hold up in 2023. Now, funny enough, these two phones are very, very different from one another nowadays, but I've always liked the iPhone XR, and I think the XR is still kind of good. It's the lowest supported iPhone right now on iOS 17. The iPhone 14, one of the highest. If you want to pick up either one of these phones, though, links will be down in the description. You can get them from there, and you can help support the channel at the same time. Now, starting off with the outside, the iPhone XR on the front has a 6.1-inch IPS panel. It's like a 750p display, and it's definitely not the best looking panel of all time, but I do think Apple did a decent job with it, and I still think in this day and age, like, it's not horrible, but they probably could have done a better job even at that moment. On the front, you have a little bit of bezel around it, the notch up top as well, but it's not an ugly display, and I think it's an overall good looking device for the most part. It's definitely not ugly, and it still looks like and resembles the iPhone 14. Like, the iPhone 14 has a 6.1-inch Retina OLED panel. It's a Super Retina XDR OLED panel, and it is a much better looking display. Viewing angles are much better. It's a much higher resolution panel too. You have the notch up top, and everything on this device looks very, very good. It's not perfect. It's a good looking display, but it's not perfect. And I definitely do think for the most part, Apple did a really decent job. You have the lightning port at the bottom. You have lots and lots of good stuff still going with this phone, which is beautiful. And I think this is still a really good phone to buy. The XR is still decent, but the 14 is much better. Now, for the rest of the bodies, the 14 sits in like a little bit of a smaller body than the iPhone XR. So that's just kind of one thing to keep in mind. And I actually like that a lot about my iPhone XR. You're getting very good feeling bodies between both, and they still feel very similar. It's crazy because the iPhone XR came out in 2018. So it's funny that we're in this kind of like interesting situation between both. The volume buttons are here. We have the mute on-off switches. The lightning ports are at the bottom. And on the back, we have a little bit of a different styling as well. So with the iPhone 14, we have a dual camera setup. The iPhone XR single camera setup. On the back, we have glass backs on both. Very, very similar feeling glass backs as well. You're getting wireless charging, but you are getting that MagSafe capability on the iPhone 14, which is kind of nice. And overall, like, nothing else on the bottom. Both these phones look and feel very, very good. There's really not a lot to hate on here. And I definitely would say from that perspective, both these phones probably gets a thumbs up for me from that side. They both have IB certification as well. It's just a really, really good phone on both. But the 14 is definitely the much better one in every single way. So, and that kind of covers it up there. Now, in terms of the actual, like software and longevity, this is probably going to be the biggest, not the problem, but the biggest area where the iPhone XR may not be the best in right now. So with the iPhone XR, it is pretty much the lowest supported iPhone on iOS 17. And that's kind of a sad thing. You kind of wish, like, I would love to see this phone I would love the iPhone 10 still get iOS 17. But that did not happen. I've already been very vocal about it. But in this case, with something like the iPhone XR, this is still a phone that's still going to be supported. It's not really going anywhere anytime soon. But probably for the next 2 years, it's going to be on its last leg. And once iOS 18 comes out, we're going to be like, oh, is this phone going to be getting iOS 18 or not? With the iPhone 14, I would still say this is a very good phone in pretty much every single area, but I'm not too sure. Like, I am curious to see where this phone goes, but it's still supported for many, many years to come, and it's not going anywhere anytime soon. So that covers it up there. Now let's go and do a speed comparison between both these phones. The iPhone 14 has that Apple A15 Bionic chip inside of it with 6 gigabytes of RAM, where the iPhone XR has that Apple A12 Bionic chip inside of it with 3 gigabytes of RAM. So let's go and see which one's the faster one between both. Okay, there we go. Let's go and get into, I forgot to hop out of the apps on the iPhone 14, so give me one moment. And within 1 second, it's going to be gone. There we go. Let's get into it. 14 is here, 10 is here. Phone calls, 3, 2, 1. Okay, kind of the same thing. Music, 3, 2, 1. Okay, kind of the same thing too. App stores, 3, 2, 1. So I don't know why the iPhone XR is not having Wi-Fi here. All of a sudden, that's very, very strange. Camera, 3, 2, 1. Perfect. Let's take a photo, 3, 2, 1. This one does have the thing on. I guess this one had the flash on, automatic flash on. Let's go and wait until they both take the photos. Let's go and open the photo, 3, 2, 1. Okay, iPhone XR definitely a little bit slower there. Photos, 3, 2, 1. Okay, we're definitely seeing some noticeable things here where the iPhone XR is kind of the slower one, which is expected. And that's honestly kind of a good thing. Tempo run 2, 3, 2, 1. You would not want the iPhone 14 to be slower than a new phone that is basically more expensive than it. Like, it just makes no sense at all. So I'm glad that we're seeing some pretty big differences here. In this case, the XR did get into it faster. Could be a few things. One, Could be because the iPhone XR is having Wi-Fi issues and it didn't have to download anything. Could be for one, so keep that in mind. Most of the time, the iPhone XR is going to be slower than the iPhone 14. It's pretty much just what's going to happen. Getting into it here, you can even see with the iPhone XR was glitching up, was being slow a little bit. That's probably the one big thing to keep in mind here. Hopping out of these two, let's go and get into something else. We can try, let's see what else we have. Let's try Snake, let's try on the snapshots. I'm already logged in. Snake versus Blocks 3, 2, 1. Totally messed that one up too. See, I take so long to even like guess into it, and I still mess it up. And it was still very close. The iPhone 14 would have actually beaten the iPhone XR. Still a very, very interesting thing. Getting into some gameplay, let's see if there's any big differences. And I don't really think there's going to be massive differences, but still something to keep in mind. Thank you. 3, 2, 1. And the iPhone 14 is a faster one. iPhone XR a little bit slower. Hopping out of here. Let's go and get into Netflix. 3, 2, 1. And a little pop-up here, of course. I don't know why there's so many pop-ups on here. Let's go and hop out of these two. And we'll do stack. 3, 2, 1. Okay, perfect. The iPhone 14 was the faster one there too. So overall, when it comes down to it, the iPhone 14 was the faster one, which I'm pretty sure was going to be faster the whole entire time. But I still think the iPhone 4, I think the iPhone XR is still a very good phone, but I think the iPhone 14 clearly is the faster one. Now, in terms of the camera experience between both are very, very solid, and I love both these cameras, but the iPhone 14 definitely is the far better one. You're getting 4K 60 on the back of both of these. You are getting 1080p on the front of the iPhone XR, where the iPhone 14 has, basically 4K at 60, so definitely a much better camera on the iPhone 14. Now, I remember when the iPhone XR first came out, and there was a very interesting thing that we saw with the iPhone XR. Basically, we saw that this phone got portrait mode even though it had a single camera setup, and Apple made the biggest deal stating they needed 2 cameras to do it. So other than that, though, this is still a very solid camera. You have, photo mode, video mode. You have a lot of different options here. Like I said, it's definitely not the perfect camera of all time, but I think it gets the job done. And I think from that perspective alone, it's actually a pretty decent thing about this device. Definitely not perfect, but like I said, it gets the job done. And I think that's all that really matters with something like the iPhone XR, especially when you consider that this is like a 5-year-old phone now. With the iPhone 14, I think, again, Apple knocked it out of the park with these devices. I think these are very, very solid phones to pick up. And with this one, you're still maintaining 4K at 60, which is awesome. So you're getting, 5x zoom on the inside, and you're getting 0.5x zoom on the outside. That's some decent, zooming in, zooming out capability, which is awesome. You're still maintaining video mode, cinematic mode. You're still getting portrait mode, panorama mode. A lot of other options here too, which are really, really cool. So I think that in and of itself is a really good thing to keep in mind with something like the iPhone 14, that you are getting a much better camera from something like this device than on something like the iPhone XR. And that's kind of how this whole entire comparison goes. You're just getting a much better phone from the iPhone 14 than the iPhone XR. You're getting a better display, better battery life, better performance, better cameras, better build quality kind of. Like everything is better on the iPhone 14, which makes sense because it is a more expensive phone. So I hope this is a better phone. With the iPhone XR, you're still getting like a decent phone in pretty much all angles. It's still supported with software. It still looks kind of decent, not mine specific one because I have a gash here, but other than that, it's still in pretty decent build quality. It still looks beautiful. You can still get it in these red colors, which look beautiful in my opinion. And it's an overall really good looking phone. If there's one, like this is the lowest phone I'd recommend buying on iOS 17 right now. Other than that, I'd recommend if you have the money, go for the 14. That only makes sense. But if not, you can always go for the iPhone XR and pretty much have a decent experience with it. So that pretty much covers it up. If you have any other thoughts or questions, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video.